Hello, I'm Ricardo Francis, the Venting Vigilante. It's good to be with you again today. Today I'm going to be venting about tea. Yes, I love tea, folks. I was first introduced to tea by my grandparents. My grandmother made the best tea. It was actually loose tea, red rose tea, which actually came from Canada. It was actually in a silver pack that said red rose. Of course, it wasn't grown in Canada. It was grown in Ceylon. It was packaged in Canada. It was sent to the Caribbean. My grandmother made it in a silver, in a stainless steel pot that she put on the stove, the loose tea. Then my grandfather, who was a farmer, had fresh cow's milk. So that was the best tea, delicious tea. Friends, that was my first introduction to tea and memories of the best tea that I've ever had in my entire life to date. Friends, tea has an interesting history in terms of our civilization. Tea was actually discovered by accident in China. One of the emperors of China actually liked his water boiled before drinking it, and accidentally, and so the tale goes, the tea leaves fell in the water, and he drank it, and this is where tea was discovered. In fact, friends, China produces the most tea in the world today. The Chinese have been supplying tea to the world for a long time. In fact, the Chinese supply tea to the UK, and it's actually caused 3 different wars. Tea has caused 3 different wars throughout history. Now, friends, the first war was actually the Opium War, because the Chinese wanted to be paid in silver, and the British, of course, at one time paid the Chinese in silver, but it depleted the British silver amounts, and of course the British later found that opium was a better way to pay the Chinese. They did in fact have an agreement, and the agreement was breached. Of course, the British were not satisfied, which led to a second war, which is the First Dutch-Anglo War. And of course, many of us are familiar with the Boston Tea Party, which came about because tea was highly taxed. Even in the UK, when tea was first introduced to the UK, in 1660, thereabouts, by Catherine of Braganza. Catherine was actually married to King Charles. She was, of course, Portuguese royalty. She introduced tea to the UK. Tea was actually more favored and more enjoyed by the upper classes because it was so highly taxed that were people of means who were able to afford it. Friends, of course, that was subsequently changed and it became more available to all classes of people in the UK. And of course, while it was highly taxed, there were of course black market tea that could have been purchased. Friends, tea actually, the British actually is known for their tea. But in fact, the British don't drink the most tea in the world. Most tea in the world is consumed by people from Turkey. Tea, however, in the UK was actually introduced as high tea, which is basically you had tea after lunch, before dinner, or somewhere in the middle of dinner. And the reason for that was because dinner was served around 8 or 9 p.m. So they needed something to fill the gap, and of course, tea is known for, taking care of your hunger pains. You have some tea. Tea is very good, and of course, the British had their tea with scones and jam, whatever the case and circumstances may have been at that particular point in time. In fact, there are still restaurants in the UK where you can go and have high tea. I understand right here in Toronto, Canada, you can actually go and have high tea as well. Friends, the average person today drink about 4 to 6 cups of tea. In America, 80% of all tea consumed is iced tea. The Americans do drink lots of tea, but it's mainly iced tea. Tea is known for its healing qualities. It boosts the immune system. It assists you in terms of cancer, in terms of diabetes. It helps the skin. It helps the whole digestive process, of course, going back to high tea. Friends, I love tea. I encourage you to drink lots of tea. Friends, I love you. I love sharing these moments with you. See you next time.